in order for crypto to be successful, you have to build a positive community. And so actually one of the inputs into that is the ability to find and to play positive sum games. Even purely from Solana's long-term interest, I would say, well, if Solana is looking to be that financial infrastructure for 5.5 billion people and all of their assets, and we can't figure out how to work with other people in crypto, how are we going to move beyond that?
Hey everyone, welcome back to CoinDesk Live. We are coming to you from Solana Breakpoint in Abu Dhabi. This is Solana's flagship conference. So no better guest to have here at the desk than Solana Foundation President Lily Liu. Hey Lily.
Hi. It's great to see you in person.
Yeah, great to see you in person as well. How has the event been for you so far?
We are getting better every year, and this year has been incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's our largest Breakpoint ever. We didn't just get a venue, we got a stadium, and it is, the content is incredible, the audience is electric, and we also have just this wonderful experience throughout the arena.
So Breakpoint famously slashed panels and went for lightning talks and basically the rapid delivery of information. So how have those conversations kind of evolved from Breakpoint to Breakpoint?
Yeah, so I think that format really reflects what our values are as an ecosystem. We've always come at this as we ship products for users. White papers, it's easy to write a white paper, but it's really hard to ship a product. So we always wanted to feature products and not just product ideas, but actual product announcements. And so what we actually use Breakpoint for every year is a way to accelerate and kind of create a collective community milestone to actually go ship something so you can talk about it on stage. And so part of what we also do is we try to create this incredible experience and this incredible stage to make everyone look incredible, to also really honor all of the work, the hard work that people have put in. And so one of the reasons why we axe panels is because panels are not a great format to feature products and feature things that people have built, whereas these product keynotes are, you get the spotlight to talk about what you've built in exactly the way you want it. And what we've also found, the audience loves that. We do live in the world of TikTok and Instagram attention spans. And so when everyone can stay and listen to 5 minutes, it's like rapid fire for the audience, so they stay really engaged. And that's why we've got 1,400 seats in the audience. If you go take a look, they're filled.
We were just speaking to Akshay about the plethora of announcements coming out of Breakpoint. I want to talk to you. What have been the standout, I know we can't ask you to pick just one, but what have been some of the standout announcements that really showcase what's happening in the Solana ecosystem?
Sure. So some I'd like to point out. So Ellipsis, one of our supremely talented teams, they're launching Phoenix, which is a native Solana perps DEX. Super excited about that. Perps are obviously a really important primitive in on-chain finance, and so that we have this tremendously talented team standing that up and having done a lot of work over years, really understanding how to integrate market microstructure on-chain. It's a really difficult engineering problem, research problem, and much less to put that into production scale application. So we're really thrilled about that. I'm aware of this kind of critique we hear from time to time that Solana is only about meme coins. That's never been my experience. And actually, what I've experienced over the last year is, as institutions are coming into crypto, the ones that are coming into crypto, looking at this with fresh eyes and evaluating chains, evaluating infrastructure from an objective basis, they're always using Solana. And we also saw that yesterday with JP Morgan launching commercial paper with Galaxy and Coinbase building that on Solana. And speaking of Coinbase, Coinbase announced that they are integrating Solana into a bunch of their core products, and that's also really interesting and really exciting. Because typically, people thought about centralized exchanges and chains being somewhat fungible, and rather than being sort of partner infrastructure, where they can actually sort of collaborate with one another. And now we're starting to see that across the board.
So looking at Solana from the lens of its partnerships with institutions, its partnerships with regulators, what has been the most effective part of that playbook in terms of cultivating those relationships and actually seeing tangible progress in those conversations?
Sure. We always want to lead with tech and product. That is what we are, that's our strongest suit always. So that's always at the core of everything we do. We want to win on product. Now, product is not just the network; it's also the developer tooling around that. It is also the protocol adjacent primitives that you put around that. And it's also the applications that get built in the ecosystem, and it's so many enabling factors as you go up the stack. But at the root of all of it is we want to have the best network. We do have the best network, and what that means is, look, we're building tech for finance. So what does finance want? Finance wants fast, cheap, and liquid. That's why you'll hear us talk about IBRL. Ever faster, ever cheaper, because we know that just given the way decentralized networks work and the limitations of physics, if you've got to communicate between two validators that are across the world from one another, from a pure latency perspective, you're never going to be as fast as servers that are centimeters away from one another. And thousands of kilometers will never be able to, just physics is never going to be able to beat out several centimeters. And so we're going to push on that front, but then also have to explore a lot of topics around market microstructure in order to be able to deliver a low latency, effective user experience. And that's many year journey, but that's really at the core of what we do. That is the network as a product itself. And then beyond that, within the foundation, we've got folks that do everything from developer tooling to marketing to operations. And the role that each of those people have is to think about how can I enable that layer of this kind of overall ecosystem stack in order to empower in order to empower the ecosystem. How can we build better developer tooling? What are the product needs that we're now hearing from not just startup founders, but increasingly enterprise builders when it comes to, for example, institutional needs around privacy, payments needs around privacy? And how can we translate that into protocol adjacent or even developer tooling, application tool sets or frameworks, wherever that might most appropriately lie, in order for the Solana ecosystem as a whole be the best product for startup builders to enterprise builders.
We just spoke with Akshay about Solana's vision for the future, really being the infrastructure layer for the future of finance, the future of the internet. Talk to us a little bit about what needs to happen for the infrastructure to be able to support all the people that the internet supports today. Are we there yet? And if not, what needs to happen for us to get there?
So being fast, cheap, and liquid, and keeping those principles in mind is going to get you. It's very simple, but it's going to get you a lot of the way there. I think that, look, the game that we're in is what is the vision from Satoshi, the peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and then incremented by this revelation that Ethereum gave us that you could have programmable blockchains and have these decentralized applications. Now, you can build whatever you can build, but doesn't mean that it's actually an appropriate fit for a blockchain, separate topic. And so this kind of very grandiose dream that you'd have this native financial layer for the internet, 5.5 billion people, all of the users of the internet and all of their assets, liquidity, wealth, would be able to interact on the same financial rails. And that's what we have with content on the internet. We now take that for granted. And there actually was a point in time where it might not have evolved like that. There was a point in time where maybe it would have been the American internet and then the European internet or whatever, or however that would have been carved up. And instead what we now have is we have TCP/IP and protocols on top of that, which make it possible for literally all 5.5 billion people are using the same foundational infrastructure, and all the gains we have from that making communication globally seamless. Yes, there's segregation at the application layer, and there's infinite permissioning also at the application layer, and that is what we've become accustomed to. And so I think that now that we've experienced the joys and all of the and the empowerment of having fast, cheap, and liquid content, I think the question is how much of that carries over into the financial world, and I think quite a bit, actually. I would say even more so, because when you think about financial markets, how oftentimes have we learned that that money is hydrophilic, right? Liquidity begets liquidity. Everyone says that. It's actually the most powerful network effect out there. It's even more powerful than the social network effects we've observed over the last 15, 20 years. And so if that's the case, then when you think about building tech for finance, of course you want to build technology which is going to prioritize the unification of liquidity. And that's something that has always been part of the perspective of Solana from the very beginning, because we've had clarity from the beginning that we were building tech for finance.
One question I have is when we talk about, the expanding Solana universe and then effectively re-engineering the internet as we know it to have all these players seamlessly integrate and function smoothly, how much of that is also going to have to come down to collaboration with other ecosystems, other product players who are perhaps on other islands? What does that look like?
We are very open-minded about that. I think that one of the privileges of being in this open source world is you have the luxury and you have the mandate to think about positive-sum games. And that's not really how the kind of capitalist system is really, the structure of the capitalist system is, here's my balance sheet, there's your balance sheet. We compete on product and we try to accumulate as much resource as we can on my balance sheet versus your balance sheet. And it's worked out pretty well for humanity over time. But one of the really interesting parts around crypto is in order for crypto to be successful, you have to build a positive community. And so actually one of the inputs into that is the ability to find and to play positive-sum games. And that's one of the things that I actually really love about crypto, that it's kind of easy. We're all kind of trained to be like, all right, my balance sheet, my product, your balance sheet, your product. And that is also true some of the time. But then one of the ways we think about it is if we have this permissionless liquidity, then that is actually helpful to a number of other ecosystems. And the way we encourage other ecosystems to think about it is instead of seeing as Solana is another blockchain and competing infrastructure, think about it as every ecosystem has the native asset of the ecosystem and also to varying degrees, depending on what the underlying tech is, some degree of infrastructure. And so maybe we can collaborate on the asset side of your ecosystem because let's face it, that's a really important part of everyone's ecosystem. And if your asset doesn't do well, your infrastructure is never going to do well, and that's just a fact. And so I think it's interesting to find these points of collaboration, and we've never really been PvP about things because, also if I were to think about just even purely from Solana's long-term interests, I would say, well, if Solana is looking to be that financial infrastructure for 5.5 billion people and all of their assets, and we can't figure out how to work with other people in crypto, how are we going to move beyond that? And so as a result, I think what we just announced earlier today is that Wrapped XRP is coming to Solana. Monad was a very successful launch that we were able to support their ecosystem on a few weeks ago. And you'll be seeing a lot more in terms of crypto native assets that have large communities coming to Solana, because one of the things that we do quite well is we do DeFi very well. And we have an expanding set of builders building the full range of financial primitives that you might want to use or maybe not, but that's up to the user and that's up to the community. It is our job to make that available. And so you'll be seeing a lot more on that front.
Amazing.
Lily, thanks so much for joining us at the desk, and thanks for having us here at Breakpoint.
Thanks so much.